Well, welcome everyone to the afternoon component of this really special event. My name is Cynthia Leitz. I'm currently serving as interim dean of Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions, one of 17 academic colleges here at ASU. Public service is in the name, so you can understand why we are so passionate about everything that's going to be talked about on this panel today. And also for those who are in the audience participating online or here in the room, the fact that you already the bug of public service, that you've developed that passion yourself, and that you're here to learn more about that. So just a little bit about our college so you have a sense of where our passion comes from. We have somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 students, depending on how you count our various programs. We've got undergraduate and graduate programs, but the thread of what runs through all the degrees that we offer is this passion for public service. So whether folks are studying criminology and criminal justice, public affairs, parks and recreation, community sports management, social work, recreation therapy, or one of the other degrees that we have in our college, what's consistent about all of our students is that they share our mission, which is to develop more healthy, vibrant communities. And that can extend to interest in local politics, interest in becoming an elected official. It can be becoming a social worker and working directly with folks in need in the community. And we also graduate the highest percentage of veterans or active military in our college. Now, I will say Dean Pat Kenny was here earlier. He beats us on the numbers game because they have almost 30,000 students and we're not quite to 10 yet. But if you look at percentage, the highest percentage of graduates for a particular college that is either identified as a veteran or active military come from Watts College. We have a place in our convocation where our students are able to stand and be recognized, and it gives us chills every time because as folks stand and we see the unbelievable commitment to serve from our student body, it fills us up. So I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you for your passion to make a difference in the world. Service really is about putting the life and the well-being of another person above your own. That's what service is. It's about putting the life and well-being of somebody else above your own. It's an honorable, worthy, meaningful, impactful calling, and I'm so grateful. And I'm also grateful to our panel. So I know that you all have had just incredible careers, and we're gonna have an opportunity to hear from all of you today to learn a little bit about the call to public service and why. What is it that drives our commitment to public service? So I think what we'll start with is just start right here and sort of go down the panel. If you each could introduce yourself, talk about your current role, and maybe talk about what you enjoy most about public service.
Good afternoon. I am Command Sergeant Major Fidel Zamora. I am the Arizona National Guard Senior Enlisted Leader. My wingman is Major General Carrie Muhlenbeck, who was up here earlier. So I've had the opportunity to serve with her in one previous assignment. So really fortunate to be serving with her. She's a great commander. I've been in the military 31 and a half years, did 10 years active Army, and joined the Arizona National Guard in January of 2000. And I've been serving with the Arizona National Guard now for 21 years. And it's been amazing to see what the Guard and Reserve does. As an active duty soldier, I had no idea what a guardsman had to do, and having to balance work, civilian employment, education, their family, and their commitment to service. And I'll talk more about that here in a bit. But what I find what I enjoy most about being a public servant, at least in this role, it's been amazing in the National Guard to be able to help our communities, the folks that I go to church with, the folks that I see at the grocery store, or maybe see at Luke Air Force Base, right? And knowing that in times of need that the National Guard is there and can pivot from their wartime mission and to be in a supportive role in helping the state accomplish its mission. So that's pretty much it. I'll leave it to Chief Weimer. I'm sure there's more questions.
That's great. And by the way, we will save about 15 minutes at the end for question and answer time, so I'll make sure that I'm watching our time so that you all can have a chance to interact directly with this great panel. Go ahead.
All right. Hello. All right. Hey, good morning, everybody, or afternoon, everybody. My name is Chief Master Sergeant Dan Weimer. I'm from Luke Air Force Base over at the 56th Fighter Wing. My wingman is General Crater, who was sitting in this position in the last briefing. And we train the world's greatest fighter pilots and combat-ready airmen out of Luke Air Force Base. The majority of F-35 pilots originate from Luke Air Force Base, and a lot of the F-16 pilots. We also have a lot of ground control training going on at that base as well. So it's a fantastic thing. I've been in for almost 29 years. My core job set was a helicopter aerial gunner, and that was an absolutely fantastic time, and loved every bit of that. But did a couple of other different jobs along the way, and it's been one heck of a ride. But I tell you what I enjoy the most about serving and the passion is that satisfaction of knowing that you're doing your small part of doing your duty to support the peace and security of our great nation. And we're, for us, it's all military, and you've got your police officers, you've got fire, anybody who is going to put themselves or willing to put themselves in harm's way for the peace and security of the great men and women of this nation. I tell you what, man, that just makes you feel good. And if you look right over here to Old Glory and what that flag represents, it's really incredible to be a part of that and know that you're part of the woven fabric of that flag. And every time you see it, the longer you stay in, the longer you serve, it means more and more, you grow more attached to it, and it becomes more and more a part of you. And it's absolutely incredible. So that passion, if you have that passion now, it only grows going forward. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
All right, I'm Sergeant Major James Prassey. My boss is Colonel Moreland. I am the Garrison Command Sergeant Major out of Fort Huachuca. It's the jewel of the southeast Arizona, and because we're about 5,000 feet, and it really never gets above 100 degrees. So yeah, eat your hearts out. It's awesome. All right. The thing that I enjoy about my job right now is we're problem solvers. I always tell the colonel all the time, I was like, man, I'm like a little fireman. I go around putting little fires out everywhere. Right now, Colonel's handling a problem right now, and we're here visiting you all. So it's awesome. It never stops. It's 24/7, and we're always trying to solve problems. And that really satisfies me in my career because I'm not conventional at all. I don't like a 9-to-5, sit in the office and answer phone calls and send emails. I've been in the Army for 26 years. It started out as a 5-year experiment, and here I am 26 years later, and a whole bunch of people that I used to work for are amazed I've made it this far. It amazed myself. Serving is just awesome. I've just tried to never be a very selfish individual, and I've tried to share that with my kids. And so service is just not in the military. My son's studying and training to be a firefighter paramedic, and my daughter's an RN. And so it's like, wow, here I am going foreign lands and doing all this fun stuff, and they're serving right there in their community. So serving is so widespread that anybody can do it, and it actually does make you feel pretty good. It's great because of the fact that, without all of us serving each other, man, we'd really be in a tough situation, wouldn't we? It'd be a totally different world, and we wouldn't be surviving this COVID pandemic like we are now. So, thank you.
That's great. That's great.
Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sergeant Major Jason Davey. First off, I'd like to thank you for having us up here today. It's been an honor to be able to hear the other individuals talk this morning, and I'd just share briefly, my experience. So I'm the Marine Corps Air Station Yuma Sergeant Major. My commanding officer is Colonel Dudick, who was up here earlier, and he did an outstanding job as explaining what our mission is there at Marine Corps Air Station Yuma. I would say what I'm most proud of right now, and it's changed throughout my career, but right now is just being able to. I'm very proud of the fact that we support the tenant commands and some of the transient commands that come through there, just to be able to support the nation's warfighting capability. In addition to that, I think it's awesome to be able to come to work each day and to be able to experience, visiting with individuals, seeing individuals that I consider to be America's, the best and brightest, which to me is that entry level, first term Marine, Airman, Soldier, Sailor, the best and brightest, and be able to interact with them and see some of the awesome stuff that they're doing on a day in and day out basis. Stuff that these dinosaurs never would have thought about doing 25, years ago, hooking up, database computer systems to multi-million-dollar aircraft, diagnosing them, 3D printing parts. I mean, whoever would have thought of this kind of stuff? And they're doing this at entry-level, first-term, enlistment, and it's inspiring to me to be able to be around that on a daily basis. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chief Master Sergeant Jorge Gonzalez. I'm the Chief Enlisted Manager for the 6th 12th Air Operations Center, and my wingman is Colonel Volkmer, sitting right here at the reserve table. Our primary missions really just execute and monitor air and space operations in the South and Central America region for SOUTHCOM, our component command. Been in the Air Force for almost 19 years now, so probably the baby chief in the crowd here or in the group. That's all right. Well, we all come from different backgrounds. First generation American, first person to join the military. We talk about reasons or what we enjoy in this capacity now, and I think I'm a weapons director by trade. I spent over 11 years controlling aircraft, both in the AOR and in garrison and training. And I think one of the things that, the things that I enjoy the most probably from public service is now at this rank is being that voice for people that feel like they don't have a voice. Being in tune and connected with, airmen, soldiers, sailors, Marines. I just did a joint tour, and being able to connect with them and bring those problem sets, to the commander, advise them on a potential way forward, and then going forth and executing those problems for them. Thank you.
So I don't know about how you all are feeling, but I'm already inspired and charged by the conversation that's happening thus far. So why public service? I heard several themes. I heard a commitment to community, a desire to get things done and be a problem solver. I heard an undeniable commitment to our democracy and giving voice to people who might not otherwise have it, to be a part of the solution in even sort of traditional military roles. And I think about how important the military was in our vaccine rollout, particularly here in Arizona, but across the nation. We could not have accomplished that without the service of folks like this on this panel. So I'm so appreciative and so inspired by you. So I'd like you all to think now about where your passion from public service came from. So for some of you, you went into the military because you already had caught that bug, and that's where you started, and you've had a long-term successful career. But some of you might have actually came into the military because it was a job, and yet you've stayed elevated and been unbelievably successful. So we know that public service is hard, and yet we've got a group of people up here who have persevered and demonstrate resilience in advancing something they care about, but it's not necessarily common or easy. So maybe for this one, we can start at the other end with Chief Master Sergeant Gonzalez. Could you talk a little bit about what first sparked your passion for public service?
Thank you, ma'am. I think so I was a senior in high school when 9/11 happened. I was getting ready to go to school, and hearing the things on the radio, and going to school the day of, and like I said, first generation American, and never had anybody served in the military. But I think seeing that and experiencing that, I think at my senior year in high school was very impressionable. And for me, it definitely felt like I wanted to give back. My parents were immigrants, right? And I believe, America gave so much to them that I wanted to give back as well. And so that's what kind of sparked my interest in public service, man.
That's wonderful. And it's sort of up to our panel. We can go down the line, or if folks feel inspired by a particular question, you can jump in, and if someone else inspires you, you can follow. And then when we've got a little bit of a gap, I'll transition to the next one. So who'd like to go next? Your passion for public service, when did it start, and what brought it on?
I'll just jump in real fast here.
We're regimented and trained.
I certainly acknowledge and appreciate that serving in the military is public service, and like I say, I definitely have appreciation for that. But I guess when I was, early on, high school type age, I wasn't thinking about serving the public or serving my nation as much as I was wanting to join something greater than myself. Playing high school sports, playing on the high school football team, wanting to join something that I thought, ask a gang member why he joins a gang. Put in the context of the military, kind of maybe not the right correlation there, but I'm saying, you know, what is the drive that wants someone to drive to push to join something greater than themselves? For me, it was the brotherhood of the military. You know, the brotherhood of the United States Marine Corps, immense loyalty, pride, and devotion. You know, our ring words are honor, courage, and commitment. And that was something that just rang true to me from an early age. And I was probably a recruiter's dream, just walking in there. Didn't have to sell me on anything. I didn't go see any of their branches. Just went in there. I came from a military town, very strong in Army and Air Force, and that's Colorado Springs. All right, and there's no Marines anywhere from hundreds of miles of there. But first time I saw the ocean was in boot camp. All right, awesome experience for me. But like I say, I definitely have appreciation for it over time, that it's service to more than just the actual institution, and that we are serving our nation, serving our community in different capacities. But it didn't start out that way for me in an early age. Thank you.
So I started out, I've got a long lineage of military service in my family. On my natural father's side, they're all Navy. My mom's side, they were all Army. So since I lived with my mom at the time and college wasn't going that great for me, I chose the Army. But also they said, hey, you want to play around with satellites? I said, sure, I'll try that. Hopefully you don't expect me to fly them because I'll probably crash it. But luckily it was just controlling the data going across. And I joined up because at first I didn't have anything going for me. So I found it as a job. I found it as a way to make money. And then I got married. And then shortly after that, what happens? You usually have a kid. And so I was like, oh gosh, this is expensive. But then after about, you know, literally, I can't believe how young you are there, Chief. But I was actually in the Army on September 11th. I wasn't in high school. And I was sitting there tying my boots, sitting in my house at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and I watched the actual video of the plane, and I said, oh crap, what is this? And then I had a reevaluation of my career. What was I doing in my career? I was sitting there working 12-hour shifts inside of a building. And so that's when I made the decision, hey, I want to do something more. I went to Special Operations. I assessed. They said I was good enough. I didn't tell me by how much. I figured I was just above the line for making it, but I made it. And then I spent 12 years there. And being there, if you've ever seen the movie Black Hawk Down, there's a guy named Hoot on that movie that talks, okay? And what's funny is, in case you didn't realize it, that's not a movie character. That dude actually exists. My uncle used to work with him. I didn't find that out until after I joined Special Operations. But he said it perfectly, and I can't say it any better. It became about the man and the woman to your left and your right. I've worked with the best that the Department of Defense has to offer, the top tip of the spear. And I'm amazed by what they do. I've literally walked amongst giants. And that's what's continued to drive me. And it's just like General said, when you get goosebumps talking about that and talking about Old Glory, that's what she wants in the military, and that's what I got, and that's what I still get, and that's why I continue to serve.
So for me, when you're talking about, you know, what sparked, what was the thing, and I tell you, for almost everybody, we got everybody in here, if I said, hey, what's your reason for joining the military? I'm probably going to get over 100 different reasons, because everybody's got different reasons, everybody's got different feelings and levels of commitment and whatnot. For myself, it was you know, more, I think, probably from my family. So at the time, I was working at an automotive shop. Wasn't really going too far. I was like, you know, where's my life really going? You know, where's the future here? My father was in the Air Force. My grandfather on my mother's side was in the Air Force, and my grandfather on my father's side was Army infantry. And so they were all very supportive of the military. And as I was going through a little bit of an interesting time, you know, the topic came up, and they said, you know, hey, have you thought about going in the military? They never forced me for anything or tried to coerce me to do it, but they wanted to let me know that was out there as an option, and you know, to help give me purpose, because at that time I really didn't have much of a purpose. And so that really was the initiating thing that led me more to the military, was the family aspect of it, and needing a sense of purpose. And I tell you, whenever I was looking around, my first thought was, well, if I'm going to go in the military, I really want to push myself. I want to challenge myself. So the first person I talked to was a Marine recruiter. Thank goodness I made a different decision. No, Everybody's good, but my dad was kind of happy I went, followed in his footsteps for the Air Force. But when I talked about passion in the beginning, you know, the military for me started off more as an occupation. It started off, I did have that sense of duty, but it started off as an occupation. It was shortly thereafter that it converted to a profession. And it's really interesting to think about those two words and what each of those mean. But when it becomes a profession, and like Command Sergeant Major Prassi said, I tell you what, the men and women that you get to serve beside, the experiences that you have, the incredible things that they're doing day in and day out. God forbid, when you lose some folks that you've worked with and everything, it really adds to the experience of what the military is all about. And again, going back to Old Glory and what you're doing and giving you that sense of purpose, passion, and it grows on you, and it grows on you very fast.
Thanks, Chief. So I don't know if I ever really had a spark for public service at a very young age. So I kind of grew up in a home that was kind of dysfunctional. So I had a father who was an alcoholic. And I was a very good student all the way up until around my sophomore year. Literally straight A's all up until my sophomore year. And that's where I started to feel like I needed a sense of belonging with something, and I wasn't getting it at home. And so I started hanging around with the wrong crowds because they accepted me and they welcomed me. And I started to deal with drug issues, alcohol issues, and those grades went down. They pretty much plummeted literally within the year. I got to my senior year, and I was told that I probably wasn't going to graduate high school. So the counselor had recommended that I consider an after-school program, which was, I think it was like 16 straight weeks on the weekends, to go do something, some type of trade or something that would give me high school credits. So I joined what was like a junior police officer law enforcement academy. And the reason why I chose that was because I knew I was headed down the wrong road, and I needed to try to find some type of discipline, something to hold me accountable, something to get me back on track. So I joined this academy for 16 weeks, and I was very fortunate to meet a man that I'd love to meet again someday, but I'll never forget his name. He was Corporal P.V. Rodriguez. He was a police officer who spent 26 years with the Pomona Police Department in California. And he was tough on me. And he was tough on me, and he found opportunities to try to inspire me to maybe consider law enforcement as, you know, something I want to go into. And I did. So at the end of the 16 weeks, I graduated in the top of my class. And I was looking at applying somewhere in Southern California to be a police officer after high school. Well, P.V. Rodriguez told me, you know what, I recommend you join the military. I think the military will continue to help discipline you, teach you skills, teach you some leadership, and you'll be a better candidate when you do leave the military to maybe serve in law enforcement. So for me, that's why I joined the military. I joined the military because I wanted to do what P.V. Rodriguez told me, to gain some experience. And but life happened, right? So I joined the military, married my grade school sweetheart, had a child within my first 4 years of service. So like Chief had mentioned, you know, now I have a family. So how am I going to support this family? Well, the military was a great place for a young family. I mean, it was stable, you know, paycheck. A lot of the services on the installation were there to help my young spouse and my son. And so over the years, I grew the passion to want to continue to serve with deployments overseas, growing closer with those that I served with, the men and women to my left and right. That was the family that I was searching for back in high school. And that's the reason why I continue to serve, because whether it was active duty or National Guard, it's a family. And so, yeah, it was later on in my time in the military where I grew to have that passion to continue to serve and to serve others and to serve those to my left and my right and my family.
So this is so great. What I hear from all of these leaders is people and how much people matter. I hear the need for a sense of belonging. I hear a desire to give back because parents were better off because of being in this country. And we talked earlier about public service from the perspective of serving others, but we didn't appropriately yet frame how we as people, when we are part of a team and surrounded with folks who have shared passion, how much that also fills us up, grows us, teaches us stuff, and makes life have meaning. So it's so great to hear how the people around you in your activity of service are so fundamentally important to that. And some of you started, it was just a job, and your passion for public service grew. Some of you had experiences that created that opportunity to uncover that passion. So I want to take this moment to give a special call out to those in the room or who might be on the live stream who are part of ASU's Public Service Academy. So we teach through the Public Service Academy cross-sector leadership that helps students understand, what does leadership mean in a private nonprofit context, in a public context, in a for-profit context, and looking at the military sector also as having incredible lessons for as we prepare folks for all types of public service. Leadership is fundamentally required in all of these things. So what I'd like you all to think about now is, as you moved on your careers of public service, you didn't know it all right at the beginning, right? You had to learn a few things along the way. So where you sit now, if you had to say one skill or ability that is now fundamental to you being successful now, that you didn't have when you started, and this is where I want you to speak to our students and talk then about what's the one skill and how did you get it? Because our students are longing to be able to garner the very skills that you have to be successful. So if you had to just pick one skill or ability that you learned over time, and where did it come from? And let's start in the middle this time with Command Sergeant Major Prasi. Would you jump in for this one?
All right, this one, it's important. It's called active listening. I learned it from my wife because she kept telling me, shut up and listen to me. Because, like I said, I'm a problem solver, okay? So when she would come to me and tell me something, she would start off, and I'm already thinking of how can I solve this problem. Eventually, after being told to shut up and listen, I did. And I realized, okay, first things foremost, I had to ask her, do you want a solution or do you want me to listen? And she would tell me, I just want to vent to you. Oh, okay, cool. So I would let her do that. But I have learned, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth because you're supposed to listen twice as much as you're supposed to talk. And now, in the world of public service, you have to listen. Because if you don't listen, you're not going to know how you can serve. And that is critical because you have to be able to understand what the person that needs assistance or needs help is asking you to do before you can go and do it. So that's a big thing for me, is active listening.
Well, and would you agree in our society today, listening is not as valued as it once was? We often say, I'm a good listener. Actually, not so much. We're not so great about listening right now.
Yeah, I'd rather my kids just listen to me instead of me having to listen to them.
Others.
No, I'd just like to continue with Sergeant Major. So, yes, active listening is very important. I would say in my role now, that's very important. We talked on the last panel about being approachable, and I think for all of us senior leaders, it's very important that we're approachable. And then when those soldiers, airmen, and sailors and Marines approach us with an issue, we need to be able to listen and also understand maybe, like for me, I just shared a little bit about my story, right? So I try to really be sensitive to what maybe somebody may have gone through early on in life, I don't believe anybody joins the military to fail. I mean, I really don't. I think everybody joins the military, if it's not to serve the country or for college education, nobody joins raising their right hand at MEP saying, man, I really hope I just screw this up and get discharged with a dishonorable discharge. I don't believe that. So I think it's important for us now as senior leaders to listen and to ask those questions. And you will learn so much about our service members in just a regular conversation, regular communication. I mean, there was a first sergeant back on active duty that used to tell us, sometimes you just got to take a knee. So you don't need to be that leader that's always on your folks. Sometimes you just got to go in the wood line, take off your K-pot, lean back on your rucksack, and just have conversations with people and listen to them. Because sometimes they're telling you stuff, and you got to kind of decode it. So I would have to agree with Sergeant Major Prassy. I think active listening and not being afraid to ask questions, because that'll help you get to the root of an issue that you can help that person or maybe even their family members through.
I'd say understanding would be the biggest one, if I could just sum it up into one word, and understanding people and understanding the human factor most of all of anything. Because, as we look at the military, we're a cross-section of the entire population of the United States, right? All of us come from different backgrounds, we come from different families, different people. But the understanding of where everybody's coming from, it gives you the appreciation and the humility, right? Because you may have a private right next to you. You don't know if he was beat by his parents. You don't know if he was sexually assaulted as a kid. You don't know if he was married and his wife just had a miscarriage or something. You don't know all that stuff. He or she may not tell you that stuff. But the understanding that everybody, every single person, the men and women to your right and left, have things going on, to include you probably, right? And understanding and appreciating that, which drives that humility and appreciation for everything, and the understanding of each other and what each other's going through, and that breeds the active listening, breeds the discussions, breeds the talking. Because as you're working together, you're going to see each other, and the more you work with people, you see them and you know when they're unhappy, you know when they're having a bad day, and that's whenever you can say, hey, what's going on, and talk about things. So that would be my input.
Great, great.
I'll just pile on one more thing. We talk about listening, we talk about understanding, and I'd say flexibility. And flexibility, when I say that, I mean flexibility with your leadership style. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and being able to adapt to the team and being the leader that they need at that given point in time. It's not always going to be the knife hand that do it this way because I said so. But being flexible, sometimes taking the knee, taking a step back and observing. It's like maybe I don't need to be the all-star for the team. I just need to be the guy that helps push that, pushes across the line.
The only thing I would add, and it's exactly what all these gentlemen here said, is just that, communication, just being able to know people and be able to communicate with them. I probably wasn't always as approachable as I am now, especially when you're looking back at the younger ranks, trying to get stuff done, just trying to make it happen. And you're not always as approachable as you can when you take a knee, as you said, and actually sit back and look at the situation and just be able to know people. I'm going to steal something from my commanding officer because he got me turned on to Ted Lasso. Anybody seen that show? So Ted Lasso, it's a similar correlation in that you don't have to know the details of the job and what the Marine, what the sailor, what the soldier's doing, but you need to know people. He doesn't know the sport, but he knows people, and that's why he's successful. I definitely saw some really good nuggets of leadership in that show to be able to watch that, and I appreciate him turning me on to that because it's a great case analysis or example of somebody who just knows people, knows how to communicate with them, knows how to relate with them on a one-to-one basis and be able to drive them to do great things. Thank you.
Really great. So is anyone surprised? We've got a group of very accomplished senior military leaders here, and here's what they're saying are the most important things: listening, understanding, flexibility, communication. Really, really inspiring remarks about things that I think actually we often take for granted. I had an opportunity to meet with General Ben Franklin about a week ago, I think it was, and we were talking leadership, and thank you for that great conversation. And didn't it sound very familiar? I looked over at you one moment, I was thinking, this is just what we were talking about. There are some real hidden gems in this conversation. I hope everybody is listening closely based on your all advice to really pick them up. All right, so question, show of hands, how many of you ever wanted to quit? Give up? Hey, I felt that way this morning, so don't be shy here. The question is, it's okay, because these jobs are difficult. This particularly difficult time in the semester for us, for the students who are listening, anyone feeling sometimes like, oh, I'm having a week where I feel like I want to give up, but you didn't. You persevered for an extended period of time under difficult conditions. Talk about what helps you push through when it's tough.
Well, I think it's the people around you, right? So, I talked about how the Army was a family to me, and now the Guard's a family to me. It's important to just stay connected with folks. All services are very big on having a battle buddy, a wingman, and it's important to have somebody or a number of folks that you can go to and speak to. So when you do have those times where you're faced with adversity, or you're faced with challenges, or maybe this isn't cut out for me no more, maybe I need to do something else. For me personally, it was always the people I work for. And I know that all of us here on the panel have an expiration date, right? All of us are going to move on and do other things, and that'll be a very tough day for a lot of us. But nothing says that I still can't stay connected with these folks after I'm gone. So I think staying connected with people has kept me serving as long as I have. I truly, truly love being a soldier. So yeah, connection.
I'll kind of pile on with CSM Zamora here, and it is about the team, but it's what keeps you going is it's more of an attitude, and what I like to frame it as is earn it every day. The gentleman up here to the left and right of me, they're trusting in me to do the best of my abilities at my job each and every day. Everybody I work with is trusting that I'm going to do my job to the best that can be done each and every day. Likewise, I'm trusting that they're going to do that, right? Which makes us that team, and we rely on those team members. And anytime I felt, that I wanted to quit or, been down, I think about, hey, I got to do this. I need to work hard. I don't want to let my buddies down. I don't want to let my compadres down, right? And that keeps me going. If I do hit a very hard wall and things are going very bad, they're going to see that, and they're going to come in, and they're going to lift me back up, right? And that goes back with CSM Zamora and acting as a team and being a part of that team. Really incredible thing.
Yeah, I've wanted to give up if I've ever ran with you or have you seen me run. This physique, not built for running. No, about 2 miles, that's all I got. So I don't want to keep that going. But yeah, giving up is easy to do. I've had friends who've given up on life, and that has been a serious problem. But I've had to reach out to people. I've had to reach out for help and understanding. And it's great to know you've got them there. It's hard to actually make the decision to reach out to them for help. But once you do, I tell you what, it gives you a lot of perspective. It gives you a great amount of perspective of, you can overcome anything. It's all about perspective. There's no trial too hard. There's no time too difficult. And I will tell you this, the greatest thing that I've enjoyed about my career is that there's always been somebody there to suck along with me. It's all about enduring the suck. Because the greatest thing was, we had an event way back when I was much younger and much less broke. And we were out on an event called a Mungadai. We had 4 days straight, 1 MRE a day, 1 hour of sleep a day. And we were doing long movements with 70-pound rucks and everything. And this was the funny thing, is at the end of it, when we were all filling out our self-assessments and we were all falling asleep while we're filling it out, because we were sleep deprived and hungered. We were making fun of each other the whole time. And then a week later, after we all got fed and slept and everything, we were still making fun of each other. But nobody else could make fun of us about it because they couldn't endure the suck. They quit. So it's all a matter of perspective and then finding the camaraderie and the motivation to keep going. All right? So don't be afraid to reach out to people to ask for help either. That's why they're there.
I'd just say in that same vein, it's just part of leadership in the military. You know, if and when you make it to commission and you're a second lieutenant, you know, you don't complain up and you don't complain down. You know, discuss amongst your peers if you have complaints or you feel like giving up, and you motivate each other. But you don't let the Marine sailor soldiers underneath you, you know, see that you're wanting to quit, that you're wanting to give up. They're relying on you for inspiration, you know, as a role model to be able to push them through what they're feeling like giving up. If they see a second lieutenant wanting to give up, it's obviously not going to inspire them to do great things.
I actually love that point, because I think that's why you all hesitated with the question a little bit, like, well, should we admit that we have a bad day? We're friends here. And it's part of the human experience that's part of it, but that's very wise advice about where you show that vulnerability. You need to validate and support one another, but you got to be careful up and down. Great, great advice. Go ahead.
No, great points made by the team so far. The only thing I would add is, you know, from a mindset perspective of, you know, when you're thinking about quitting or the thought or the times, it's like, who else would I be failing if I quit, if I reach to that, you know, that point? And I would leave it with two book recommendations. One is Grit by Angela Duckworth, The Passion of Power, or Power of Passion and Perseverance. That's what it is. Great read when we talk about, you know, not wanting to quit or finding different reasons. And then the other one, just read a couple years ago, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Definitely talks about mindset and then pushing through very difficult situations. Thank you.
Great example. So people, perspective, and while no one used this word, I'm also observing a lot of humor. And that's a really important part of connecting as human beings, and also lightening the load. When we laugh and smile, and when we LOL, laugh out loud, it literally sets off chemicals in our body that makes us feel better. Laughing's really important, and sharing that together makes it even better. All right, so we've got one last question for the panel. Here's what I think I'd like to do. We're going to close by asking each to give one last piece of advice to all the students who are participating online or here in the room. But why don't we open up for our Q&A first and see what questions we might have from the audience, and then we'll come back together and close on that question. Does that sound okay? All right, perfect. All right, questions from the audience.
I don't need the microphone, don't worry about it.
Well, they want to be able to hear.
Oh, okay. I'll put my Marine Corps voice on.
No.
Gentlemen, thank you. My name's Joe. I'm the Veteran Recruitment Coordinator here at Arizona State University in the admissions office. So I talk to roughly 20, 30 veterans from all branches every single day. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, transitioned out twice, once as a junior Marine as a corporal, second time as a E7 or Gunny Select back a few years ago. A big thing, a theme I'm seeing from veterans coming out of service now, whether it be 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, 20 years. If you're interested in coming to ASU, let me know. We'll put that GI Bill to work. A big theme I'm seeing is I think we can all echo the same responses about the call to serve and what it means to serve, whether you're enlisted or officer. I think it's all kind of the same, but the mission has changed. A lot of us who were seniors in high school on 9/11, we joined because of 9/11 for that call, and then we stuck around service because we felt the need to serve our junior service members, right? I guess the question I have, and it's kind of a challenge of sorts as well, is what are we doing for the junior service members? And this is for some of the officer candidates here as well, for your future service members. What are we doing for the E3s to E5s roughly after they serve 4 years and they didn't complete the mission that they thought they were completing in service in uniform, whether you're an 03 infantry in the Marine Corps or an 02 intel guy coming from Fort Huachuca? What are we doing for those E3s to E5s to move their transition process to the left? Not kind of waiting till they go through TAPS or TRS and it's kind of too late at that point. And it's kind of an open-ended question, so whatever your thoughts on it, or whatever's coming down the pipeline from your prospective branch or from the DoD in general.
Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate what you do for the veterans, for the university, and then serving in the Marine Corps. Definitely appreciate it. It's an outstanding question. I'm sure all the services have started to see something that's a great thing that I think's come to fruition is the skill bridge. You know, being able to allow deserving Marines, and I emphasize deserving Marines who are doing great things, and you are knocking the ball at the park MOS-wise. Obviously, we can't let every single individual go to skill bridge because then we'd have to extend everyone's contract by 6 months or however many months it is. But I think it's a great way to set somebody up for that second stage after they transition out of the Marine Corps if they didn't meet the goals that they didn't want to in the Marine Corps. But we can also obviously set them up for success in a certain vocational program of their choosing. And I think it's a great way for that Marine to transition. I hope that answers your question. Is that what you're asking about? It is, Sergeant Major. All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, I'll just add, on the Army side, Sergeant Major Prassi, you could add if you want to it. So on the Army side, we have obviously federal tuition assistance for college for our soldiers, but we also have what's called the Army Cool program. And what that does is it provides all members in the Army the opportunity to continue with licensing or certifications, credentialing, and there's like thousands and thousands of those that are in this system that they can study, take their test, and so I think that's one way that the Army's trying to get after it for those that are only going to be like first-termers that maybe don't want to go to college, but hey, I want some type of certification or some license or some credential that I can use as I transition. So that's what the Army has, and I know our Army Guard soldiers are using that too. So.
And likewise, the Air Force, same thing, but the thing that you know we could do, always can do better at, and everybody can do better as communication, right? There's programs out there already that fulfill that. They're very different things, but do our airmen know about them? And I tell you, our airmen that are in 2, 3 years, a lot of times, unless they've heard it from their first line supervisor, they're not going to have it, right? Because there's so much information out there that you know you can't know all that different things that are going out there. So pressure and leadership, especially first line supervisors, to make sure they're communicating with those airmen those opportunities that are available. Air Force Cool, same as Army Cool, credentialing opportunities online, tuition assistance, and then we have in the Air Force we have it's called the Informed Decision Brief. So at a certain point, before you make that decision to get out, there's a certain point, it triggers that you have to go to this briefing. And the briefing is not to sell you on the Air Force. It's not to coerce you to stay in. It's to get you to think about all those different things before you make that decision to pull the trigger and get out. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? If you're looking to go to school, have you realized that this is available to you, right? And so getting them that information at that is a really key point. But really improving our communication, which is a never-ending thing that we always have to keep chasing.
So for us, Joe, first, thanks for your service. Appreciate it. One thing we do right now is we do every single soldier, maximum 2 years, minimum 18 months, has to go through our Soldier for Life program. It's now, Soldier for Life is gone. Everybody is considered Soldier for Life, but it's our transition assistance program. They've got a whole lot of different briefs that they get to go to, and they can utilize those briefs all the way up until the time they exit service. There's resume writing skills because most of these young soldiers, they've never written a resume. Their resume is half a page long, but we want to make sure that they know how to write it. We do a lot of interview prep, and we do, directly partner with Department of Labor. We let them know about National Guard and Reserve transition. Certification assistance, that's $4,000 a year. Each year that they're in service, the Army will pay $4,000 for a certification. So whether they want to get a communication certification, an HR certification, whatever it is, they got it going on. Our transition assistance program also has worked really diligently with a lot of employers. So some of our young soldiers that are still really mobile and want to have fun, they can go directly and get tied right in with some of these renewable energy companies that are building windmills and solar plants, and they're making $60,000, $70,000 starting, which is great. So there's a lot of connections and opportunities that have been created for these young soldiers, whether they want to stay in or whether they want to get out. But they can also still, after they get out, they can still talk with that transition assistance counselor to keep them going.
Great. Other questions from the group? You know what, I'll bring mine over here.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Midshipman 4th Class Riley. This question's for the entire panel. What is the most common trait you see amongst ensigns and second lieutenants where you see them become successful officers down the line?
So having had actually worked with an ensign, enjoyed billets, because it's amazing what you get told when you call someone the wrong rank. So therefore, the biggest thing is the desire to learn. So ensigns come in brand new, just like our second lieutenants, and they're right out of college. While well educated, not well versed in how the military operates, not well versed in understanding how a unit operates. Each unit operates differently. Being willing to listen was the greatest thing that led to their success, because then everybody in the unit wanted to work for them.
I think definitely for me in my experience, the one thing I look for and what I've seen, I think over the years from successful, lieutenants, ensigns, O1s is their credibility. I think is probably one of the harder things to earn, but probably the quickest thing to lose, and then very difficult, extremely difficult to regain. Understanding, you guys are going to be new, and leaning on the experts, and I think it was mentioned earlier, and leaning on your NCO Corps and your senior NCOs. I think the lieutenants that have come in with that open mindset of like, I might not know everything, and that's okay, and being able to say like, I don't know, let me go find out, let me go ask somebody that might know the answer, and showing kind of like that humility piece, credibility, I think went a long way for them.
And then, along with Sergeant Major Prassi's Open to Learn, is finding the golden BB. I would say when you go into an organization, you're going to be on listen mode. You're going to be, you're just watching what's going on around you. But as you're doing that, you're going to be looking around. You're going to see different people. You're going to see how people are interacting, and you see this and that. And you want to find those leaders in the organization that are effective leaders. And when I say effective leaders, I mean the ones that are doing the right things for the right reasons, and they're leading well. You're going to encounter some folks in any organization that they may be popular, but they may be popular for the wrong reasons, right? Because they're not doing the right things, cutting back early, doing this and that, right? So who are you going to listen to? Who are you going to confide in, to talk to, and learn from? Look for those leaders that are doing the right things, and you'll see them. It'll be evident on what they do, how they carry themselves, how they hold other people accountable and whatnot. And when you find that person that you think that you can really learn from, then go pick their brain and go learn from them. And then because that officer enlisted interaction is really cool when it's done right and you get the right people together.
Great question. Thank you. I think we had one more over here. We got the microphone? Okay.
Hello. All right. Good afternoon, Cadet Gonzalez. So it goes back to the first question on topic similar to retention. So I kind of want to touch base on the fact that I think I've personally seen a trend with the lower enlisted, usually the one-termers I heard previously stated, how there's usually that bad ideology, those bad apples that kind of spread the ideology of the lifestyle is not for them. And what's kind of the process when that kind of starts to spread in the lower ranks, and you got a unit per se or a squad element that has that same kind of ideology and mindset of, all right, let's kind of just not for them. Like the ideology starts spreading, and like the doubt, and exactly what was stated earlier in the sense of you got to be influential. Your leader's got to be influential. So what do you do in that kind of situation when you got that bad energy kind of starting to spread?
So first thing I do is I sit down and have a conversation with them. Ask them, okay, substantiate your statement to me. Tell me exactly why you think this is the way it is. Then I ask them, now tell me another job you can go find and get 30 days off every year, paid. And then where do you get 4-day weekends? Paid. But basically what I'm doing is I'm making them think through their statement, making them come to an understanding of where we can both look at each of our viewpoints and then see it from a different viewpoint. Understand, hey, where am I got some misconceptions? Where am I wrong? Oh, dang, this is a lot better than what I thought it was. 3 hots and a cot, 30 days of leave. This is kind of awesome. Only other place like that is prison. Okay? And you get forced exercise. All right? So I try and show them a lot of the positives, make them laugh a little bit, make them have fun, make them realize that, yeah, it's going to be unfun at points in time, but it's not going to be forever. Okay? So, and then I also try and show them all the benefits that they're getting that they might not know they have and that they might not be utilizing. Okay?
One thing I would say, it goes back to knowing your soldiers, knowing your service members, right? Whoever you're responsible for. As that first line leader, it's very important that you stay connected with that, with your team or your squad. You have to know what gets your people motivated. I mean, as a leader, as a young leader in today's military, it's very complex. And right, I mean, we're in competition with everything on the internet, social media, I mean, anything. So as a young leader, it's very challenging. It's very hard. I think it's harder to be a Sergeant E5 now than it was for me to be a Sergeant E5. But to get at the just to your question, I think you have to know your people, because you, as a leader, if you know what motivates your people, you may still have that person that really doesn't want to be there, but they'll perform for you. They will. One example where I saw that was in Afghanistan. When the National Guard deployed our 158th Infantry, we had a platoon of inactive Ready Reserve folks that were not very happy when they received their FedEx package saying, hey, you've been called to service. So that was an entire platoon that was not happy to be going to Afghanistan. Many of them had already served before in Iraq and Afghanistan, and now they were being told by a FedEx package, you need to report here, you're going to go overseas, you're going to serve another tour. But that platoon sergeant understood that. He knew right off the bat they didn't want to be there. And he found a way to connect with each and every one of them. And even though they didn't want to be there the whole 12 months, they performed extremely well. A lot of amazing stuff came out of that platoon, a lot of awards. And so as a leader, you have to know your people. You have to know what motivates them. And you're never going to please everybody as a leader. You're just not. But you can find what motivates those people. And that's why it's so important to know them, and that they have those battle buddies that could help push them along, right? But yeah, that's a great question, because we do see that in our military today.
I think that's a great example to end on. We've just got about 3 minutes left. So maybe we could do a rapid fire. One piece of advice, we'll just go down this way as we wrap up our time together. One piece of advice for this great group of students.
Well, the piece of advice I was going to give for these soon-to-be young lieutenants and ensigns was already mentioned earlier, but I would say listen to your non-commissioned officers. Listen to your non-commissioned officers. When you report to that first duty station, you're going to have a platoon sergeant or a section sergeant that has a lot of years of experience, has seen it all, done it all, probably has been deployed a number of times. I would ask you to just have a conversation with that NCO, and you will learn a lot. And I think that NCO will set you on a path to success. If you go in not wanting to listen to that NCO, you're going to have a very, very challenging time.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to steal a phrase from the Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chief Master Sergeant Colon Lopez. One of the things that he says, he's got a number of different bullet points, but he says, if you want to soar with the eagles, don't run with the turkeys. You're a product of the people that you surround yourself with. It's just part of nature. And so with that, when you look around, study who you look up to. and study why you look up to them, whether it be a government official, whether it be a family member, whether it be even a professor, somebody at the school here. But what is it about that member that you look up to? What are the different characteristics? Emulate that. Add that to your toolkit. Everybody leads in different ways. All right, there's not one leader that's exactly the same. So the more you add to your toolkit by learning from all those people that you look up to because you look up to them for a specific reason, add that to your toolkit and move forward and grow on that. And in parting, I would just have to say that later tonight, I'm not that old. I do have a 5-year-old at the house, and when she says, "Hey, Daddy, how was your day? What did you do today?" I'm gonna be very happy because I'm gonna be able to tell her that I got to talk with the future of the United States military today, and I'm gonna smile, and she's gonna know that. She's gonna know that's good because she's just fantastic, and it's just awesome.
Great, great.
Talk about a proud dad. All right, last thing. Show genuine care and concern, always. Whoever you're serving is going to see right through it if it's fake. You guys can see right through it if it's fake. Don't you think they will? So it has to be genuine. Take care of your people at all costs.
Great.
Just a couple of quick things. I didn't want to put the individual on the spot, but there's a term that I heard when some questions were being asked here, and it was lower enlisted. All right, I'm not a huge fan of that term. Recommend not having it part of your vocabulary when you're speaking to subordinates. E1 to E3, entry level. Soldiers, Marines, call them what they are. My one piece of advice is never cease the opportunity to learn from a subordinate Marine. Say sailor, soldier. Sergeant Major Bradley Castle. He was very well known in the Marine Corps. I'm sure some of you have seen the picture of him coming out of the Hell House with took some rounds to the legs and had an M9 in one hand and a K-bar in the other as his Marines were carrying him out. Phenomenal leader. He came down and visited my squadron when I was a CH-53 Sergeant Major. And he didn't get around very well walking around, so he couldn't go upstairs, but he wanted to go out and see the Marines at the out at the flight line there. And went up to one of the crew chiefs, and he's like, tell me what you do. Tell me about this gun. The 50 cal on the side of the CH-53. I'm sure you're very familiar with it. This kid was just ecstatic that the sergeant major was there at his bird, actually going through it, and he's showing him the gun, and he's showing him how he does everything. And as Sergeant Major Castle was walking away from that aircraft, he told me, he's like, never cease the opportunity to learn from a subordinate Marine. He goes, I know everything about that gun. I know everything about that aircraft. There's not a thing that Marine told me right there that I don't automatically already know, just from my experience of being in the operating forces. But he didn't let that subordinate Marine know that. And it inspired that individual. And I'm sure that right there spread like wildfire just from that one action that he had by his interaction with that junior Marine. Thank you.
The one piece I think I leave everybody with is be yourself. I went from leading small teams, a small cadre of instructors, and my first assignment as an E8 was leading about 114 joint personnel in J3, Joint Operations, and Joint Interagency Task Force South. Right, so talk about leading 6 members to 114 from all 6 different services working with civilians, and it was a challenge, right? We made chief, came to the 612th Air Operations Center, and now we have 320 personnel. So my career kind of went this way, right? But the one thing that I believe kind of stayed constant was I never changed who I was, regardless of the setting that I was in. So I would say be yourself. Don't sacrifice your morals, your values. I always tell in my in-briefs, I always tell every single person that I check in with, it's like what you see is what you get. There's no smoke and mirrors. I was like, I have a 13-year-old and I'm married. Sometimes the way I talk to my 13-year-old is the same way I talk to my airman, and vice versa. I don't know who gets the better end of it, but it's the same. You know what I mean? And so that's the one thing I'd leave everybody with. Be yourself. Thank you.
So I just have to say, I learned so much from all of you. It has been an honor to be able to spend some time with you today to facilitate this conversation. We could go all day, but I want to be respectful of your time and everyone in the room. But let's just recognize these incredible leaders for their time and their service. So grateful for your time, your wisdom, but most importantly, your service. Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody.